In a long divine narration found in Sahih Bukhari, number 7405, Allah, the Exalted, advises Muslims on some important things. The first is that Allah, the Exalted, acts and treats His servant according to their perception of Him. This means if a Muslim has good thoughts and expects good from Allah, the Exalted, He in turn will not disappoint them. Similarly, if a person harbors negative thoughts about Allah, the Exalted, such as believing they will not be forgiven, then Allah, the Exalted, may act according to their belief. It is important to note, there is a vast difference between true hope in Allah, the Exalted, which this narration refers to, and wishful thinking. Wishful thinking is when one fails to strive in the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, by fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and by facing destiny with patience according to the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, thereby misusing the blessings they have been granted, and still expects Allah, the Exalted, to forgive them and grant them mercy in both worlds. This is not true hope, it is merely wishful thinking. This is like a farmer who fails to plant any seeds, fails to water their crop, and still hopes to reap a large harvest. True hope is when one strives to obey Allah, the Exalted, and whenever they slip up, they sincerely repent and then hope for the mercy and forgiveness of Allah, the Exalted. This is like a farmer who plants seeds, waters their crop, dedicates effort to keeping the crop healthy, and then hopes for a large harvest. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, has summarized this explanation in a narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 2459. Generally speaking, a Muslim should harbor more fear of Allah, the Exalted, during their life, as it prevents sins, which is superior to hope, which inspires one to perform righteous deeds, especially the voluntary type. But during periods of illness and difficulty, and especially at the time of death, a Muslim should have nothing but hope in the mercy of Allah, the Exalted, even if they have spent their life disobeying Him, as this has specifically been commanded by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in a narration found in Sahih Muslim, number 2877. The next thing mentioned in the main narration under discussion is that Allah, the Exalted, declares that He is with anyone who remembers Him. With the rise of mental problems and disorders, such as depression, it is vital for Muslims to understand the importance of this declaration. There is a small chance of a person experiencing a mental issue when they are constantly surrounded and aided by someone that truly loves them. If this is true for a person, it is undoubtedly more befitting for Allah, the Exalted, who has promised to be with the one who remembers Him. Acting on this declaration alone would eliminate mental issues, such as depression. It is the reason why being secluded from others or being amongst others did not affect the mental state of the righteous predecessors, as they were always in the company of Allah, the Exalted. It is obvious that when one obtains the company of Allah, the Exalted, they will overcome all obstacles and difficulties successfully until they reach His proximity in the hereafter. In addition, out of His infinite mercy, Allah, the Exalted, has not restricted this declaration in any way. For example, He did not declare He was only with the righteous or with those who perform specific good deeds. He, in fact, encompassed every Muslim irrespective of the strength of their faith or how many sins they have committed. Therefore, a Muslim should never lose hope in the mercy of Allah, the Exalted. But it is important to note the condition mentioned in this narration, namely, to remember Allah, the Exalted. This remembrance includes correcting one's intention so that they only act to please Allah, the Exalted, and therefore do not expect nor hope for any gratitude from people. Remembrance with the tongue involves speaking what is good or remaining silent. And the highest level of remembrance is to use the blessings one has been granted in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This is the true remembrance of Allah, the Exalted. The one who behaves in such a manner will be blessed with the company and support of Allah, the Exalted. Simply put, the more one obeys and remembers Allah, the Exalted, the more they will receive His company. What one gives is what they shall receive. The next thing mentioned in the main narration under discussion is that whoever remembers Allah, the Exalted, privately will be remembered by Him privately. And whoever remembers Allah, the Exalted, publicly meaning, in a gathering, will be remembered by Allah, the Exalted, in a better gathering meaning, amongst the heavenly angels. This, like many other examples found within the Holy Quran and the narrations of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, indicates a basic teaching of Islam, namely, what one gives is what they shall receive. Another example, which confirms this narration, is found in chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 152.
So remember me, I will remember you.
A narration found in Jami' at-Tirmidhi, number 1924, advises that the one who shows mercy to the creation will be shown mercy by the Creator. Generally speaking, in this material world, a person receives things according to their efforts. Yet strangely, some expect to obtain the high ranks of paradise without any effort. These teachings clearly show that a Muslim will receive blessings and mercy based on their efforts. The more obedient they are to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined earlier, the more they will receive in return. There is no doubt that Allah, the Exalted, can give whatever He wants to whomever He wants, irrespective of how much or little they strive in His obedience. But Allah, the Exalted, has set up a system which must be followed, namely, striving in His obedience in order to obtain more blessings and mercy. Therefore, each Muslim must reflect and decide how much mercy and blessings of Allah, the Exalted, they desire, and then strive in the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, accordingly. This reality is clearly described in the final part of this narration, where Allah, the Exalted, indicates that the more one strives in achieving His proximity, through his sincere obedience, the more of His mercy they shall receive. Over 400 free ebooks, audiobooks, infographics, podcasts and blogs available on our website, www.shaykhpod.com.